the potential for passive income specifically with products that you can create once and then sell over and over again, kind of on autopilot. And I've seen that firsthand for myself, how powerful that is. And so that's why I'm just super passionate to help other people figure that out as well.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Coffee with Kittl. Today, Kate is with me, and we're going to talk about Etsy. We're going to talk about not only physical products, but we're going to dive into some digital product content, because I think some people forget that there's like crazy strength in uploading digital products. Like, I even started kind of experimenting with that, already having some success with just a few. I'd love to dive into, some trends for digital products, get into some pricing. What should we do for 2024? But before all that, Kate, if you don't mind, can you give us a brief introduction, talk about what you do on YouTube, your experience on Etsy, and then we can dive in.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and chat about Etsy and digital products, physical products, all the different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been an Etsy seller since 2015 is when I first started my first Etsy shop. And over the years have tried a lot of different things on Etsy. I've sold a lot of different things. And then slowly but surely I've kind of moved into the coaching space, helping other people that are wanting to start selling online. And really, it just kind of happened organically after a few years of having some success on Etsy. I had friends and family that started asking me, like, how are you doing this? How are you, like people that had tried it and not really found any success. And so I kind of just organically started helping people that way. And then I at one point had a thought of like, if I were to get on YouTube and create videos, I could help a lot more people and reach a lot more people with the things I've learned that have helped me. So that's when I started the YouTube channel, was back in 2020. And since then, we've just kind of been coaching not only Etsy sellers, but kind of branched out into digital marketing and creating digital products with different tools online. And so yeah, it's kind of been a whole journey that has evolved of like starting on Etsy, and we're still on Etsy and sell on Etsy, but also coaching other people that that need help growing their own small business with both physical and digital products. And so yeah, that's it in a nutshell. It's been quite an interesting journey, but it's been just really exciting to be able to kind of be here for these years and see how things have evolved and changed online, and just how much true opportunity there is. I think that's why I'm so passionate about it, is because of the potential for passive income, specifically with products that you can create once and then sell over and over again, kind of on autopilot. And I've seen that firsthand for myself, how powerful that is. And so that's why I'm just super passionate to help other people figure that out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a lot of updates that Etsy has made over this last year, specifically in the last couple of months. What over 2023 do you think is perhaps the most important update we need to be aware of from Etsy, or perhaps it could even be a feature, um, just kind of to, I guess, like set our minds or set the tone before we start talking about specific products or listing and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, there have been several updates, several things. Etsy is kind of always evolving and changing and adding new things and changing things. So that can be exciting, but it's also sometimes frustrating for sellers because we feel like we're having
Mm,
to keep up with things. So it is important to be able to keep up with what's going on. But I do think a lot of things that they have brought into it or changed are good for sellers in one way or another. So I don't know. I think that there's been a lot of talk about, the first thing that comes to mind, and I don't know if you would consider it like a change, but I guess something that's been on the forefront of the Etsy conversation has been like shop suspensions. A
mm,
lot of people are asking about, or there's a lot of kind of buzz about people saying, well, Etsy suspended my shop for no reason.
yeah.
It's seemingly like getting emails with no reason pointing to why their shop got suspended. And so I've been kind of like especially interested in that, to figure out, well, is that true? Are they really just suspending shops and they're not giving any kind of reason? And I don't know firsthand because my shop hasn't been suspended, so I haven't been able to like receive those emails on
Sure.
my end, but I've researched what other people have said. As far as I can tell, Etsy, at least from what they state, is that they don't ever suspend without a reason. And so the conclusion that I've come to, there's several different, they actually have an article that you can read on their website citing different reasons
Mm,
why a shop might be suspended. But I think one of the main things that we can take away as Etsy sellers is I think a lot of people are in violation of one policy or another. There are a lot of different policies that sellers are expected to abide by on Etsy, and a lot of which, like, unless you go and actually read through the seller handbook, you may not even be familiar with, or maybe you've heard of it as a general kind of policy, but you wouldn't know specifics of how it works and why you could be in violation of it. And so I
Mhm.
think a lot of times it's either that, like a seller is in violation of a policy without even maybe realizing it and doing that unintentionally. It could, I mean, there's lots of different policies that could apply to. There are a lot of different reasons. I think that when, Etsy kind of skyrocketed back in 2020 when everything happened, the world went crazy, and like
Yeah.
everyone jumped online to start selling products online, and Etsy just like skyrocketed. And so I think at that point they realized they had to figure out a system to vet new sellers better, because a lot of people were coming on sort of as these like, I don't I don't know if fake seller is the right way to say that. But that's the only really way I can think to describe it. But people that were coming on Etsy to sell products that did not fit within Etsy's policy or any category that Etsy approves of, like handmade, digital, print on demand. They
Right.
were just coming on and trying to resell, just manufactured items that hadn't been
Mm.
handmade or whatever. So to vet those kind of sellers that were not supposed to be coming onto Etsy, I think that they did at that point implement sort of this new system of like more automated system of vetting new sellers. And so
Yeah.
these bots can have like red flags if you're, it's like there's like a lot of different things that could cue a red flag for Etsy. But I think that overall they're using that to try to kind of keep a handle on like keeping Etsy what it was originally meant to be, and not just being taken over by people that are violating all of these policies. And so anyway, all of that to say, I think that kind of started back in 2020, and it sort of
Mm.
has been growing and growing in terms of the conversation of that
Yeah.
through this year. And so that's something I've been very interested in. I don't think there's like a cut and dry answer to that.
Yeah.
But that's from what I can tell. I don't know if you would consider that really an update or a change, but to me, that's kind of what's been on the big like forefront of everyone's minds with Etsy this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I mean, if there's a key takeaway there, it's, you need to be familiar with the policies,
Yeah, right.
and because, I would s I'm reminded of a couple of collaborators and creators I've interviewed, and several of them have kind of referred to Etsy initially being kind of the Wild West, where there was quite of a bit that's allowed. I mean, even now I'm still seeing like people using like the Harry Potter font, and
Right.
using like there's still a little bit of the Wild West there.
Mhm.
However, these companies and manufacturers even are clearly starting to get much more involved as Etsy's audience has grown, Etsy sellers have grown, product availability has grown. So it moved not just from handcrafted, but now you can do print on demand. I mean, that's a pretty amazing thing,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And so there's a lot that you can do. And I think we need to be just super aware of these policies and read these articles and read updates, and don't just, immediately trash an email from Etsy that has nothing to do with you getting a sale, but actually an update. So I think that's a super vital and important one. Now, the next question I have, I really want to focus on digital products for the moment, because I think it's still not like perfect. It's not a perfect system on Etsy selling. So I sell digital products on actual digital product marketplaces like Design Cuts, Creative Market. I know there's some people selling on Creative Fabrica or what have you. But I still make quite a bit of sales with digital products in a couple of week on Etsy, and it's very interesting. I want to know your thoughts, perhaps any trendy digital products you've seen over this year, and maybe get into some of the like, what's the best way we can format or sell digital product, or what is the type of digital product, because there's everything from clip art to like a downloadable calendar. I mean, there's everything you can do, right?
Mhm.
So I know that's a loaded question, and it's kind of like a brain dump question, but I kind of just want to know your thoughts on the evolution of selling a digital or downloadable or printable product on Etsy, because this is something you can do very powerfully with Kittl easily with, designing, and don't have to just use Kittl for print on demand. You can use it for digital products. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know if you can just walk through your thoughts as they result or, refer to digital products throughout this year.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think digital products are that's a really smart niche to get into because it's just continuing to grow and grow, and people are more and more shifting to
Mhm.
purchasing things that they can print out on their own rather than purchasing a physical item. So I think digital products is definitely on the rise, and especially on Etsy, it's just, I mean, it's the go-to place for a lot of people, I think, that are in specific industries and niches.
That's
The first
interesting.
thing that comes to mind is wall art is huge on Etsy. If you know, I think people just the ease of being able to purchase a digital file. If I want
Mm,
to hang something on my wall, it's so much easier to just and like instantly be able to go on and find what I want on a place like Etsy and then purchase that file and print it out myself or take it to the printer or whatever I want to do with that. There's so many different options as opposed to having to go out and like go store to store to like find something physical.
mhm.
So to me, wall art is the first thing I think of because of just it's so huge on Etsy. Huge in terms of demand, like just the number of monthly searches for the term wall art. Like it's a really great spot with a lot of opportunity as far as digital products. But I also think of more practical. So that's kind of like the home decor side of it, but there's
Yeah.
also really practical digital products that are for a specific use, like specific business templates that people could use. I know as a small business owner, I use those kind of templates all the time because I don't want to like necessarily start everything from scratch, even though I probably could go on and design everything myself. It's a lot
Mhm.
easier to have a template for something and to be able to cut out some hours of work just using a template, or even printable business like marketing materials, business cards, things like that, that you could create templates for and sell to people that again, maybe they know how to do that, maybe they don't, but the point is saving people time. So even if they know how, a lot of people would rather just save the time and not have to worry about it. So to me, I'm thinking of it specifically from like a business owner's perspective, knowing
Mm,
how much like business owners, on specifically online business owners, social media influencers, people that need like Instagram posts and they need templates for maybe like resources they want to sell. If they're a coach or something, they might need like a workbook template or something like that. So those are all really, I mean, even things like resume templates, like if
yeah.
people need resumes and they maybe
Right.
don't know how to create them. So just purchasing a resume template, that's a digital product. And then I think also about printables for like events, like specific events. So weddings, birthdays, invitations, not just invitations, but also printable things like printable activities. People might have like a wedding shower, a baby shower that they need printable activities for, printable decor. Maybe they
Mm,
need like cake toppers, there's like so many things that you would not really think, but like there's so many things that are actually just printable that
yeah.
you can sell as a digital product and a digital file. So I think people are more and more kind of coming to understand the idea of digital products. I mean, I still talk to people when I tell them what I do, and they're like, "What is a digital product?" Like some people still don't really understand like the concept of that. But I think more and more it's becoming a thing, and a lot of people do. And I feel like once you purchase some things digitally, you kind of get like hooked because it's so
Mm,
easy. It's like, oh, I could just like buy all of this online and just print it out. So,
mm,
so those are some specific like categories that I would say in terms of digital products that do really well. And then in terms of like just more specifically than the broad product category, when you're thinking of like style and trend elements.
yeah, that was
um,
gonna be the next thing I was gonna ask, yeah.
okay. Yeah. Is it okay if I kind of like go right
Oh,
into that?
yeah, no, because I was actually gonna say, like, "Oh, okay, well, how do we parse that into, like, what
Yes.
actually is selling?"
Yeah, because it's important to kind of start broad and you figure out what type of product you're going to offer. But then within that broad product category, you have to do some trend research to figure out what font styles, what color
Mm,
schemes, what
yes,
graphic types, like
yes.
certain things sell better than others, and certain things are trending currently. And then there may be things that were trending and have kind of gone out of style. So it's important to be able to stay on top of those trending elements. So to me, at least through this past year, what I've seen, and I think will continue to be on the rise specifically, are these like retro kind of like throwback fonts, like 70s
Yep.
groovy kind of fonts. We see that in both digital and physical products. So even like print on demand t-shirts, you see that everywhere. But you can also incorporate that into digital products as well. Um, and then I also think there's something that's been trending for a while, but it continues to stay solid on Etsy at least, which is like that sort of light and eerie, but like minimalist, kind of neutral look,
Mhm. Yeah.
which is it, especially for business owners with those kind of products, that sort of gives the ability for the business owner to stay sort of neutral and professional looking, but it's also has like a little bit of a trendy touch, you know? So those are the two things that I think of right away is like that trendy kind of retro boho color scheme, and
Yeah.
then the
Yeah.
sort of light and eerie neutral polished look.
Yeah, I 100% to agree. In fact, in my I just did a video very recently about the 15 graphic design trends that I think will be big for 2024, and I did my best to keep them specific to what I believe a consumer trend would be, because there's a big difference between a consumer graphic design trend and a graphic design trend for the just for the sake of it being a trend, right? For making, you know, social
Mhm.
post or something like that. But like
Right.
what someone would actually want to buy. Now, I actually did a 16th, a bonus one, if you will, in the graphic design trends, and I placed it as the what I called the mystical bohemian trend,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
that's been if you actually, because I used Google Trends to kind of research all these keywords to see where the bars are going. That one's actually not over the past couple years, it actually is not an upward thing. It does this. Like, it's
Hmm.
very interesting. It's very seasonal.
Interesting. Yeah.
That one specifically, this kind of mystical, tarot card style, but with the bohemian, you know, orange and dark mud and muted green and all that stuff. I still think it will be very, very big over this next year and beyond, because
Mhm.
it's like you said, there are times when it can be neutral, but there's also times it can be playful, and you can also cross niches. Like the wavy retro stuff works with the bohemian stuff like really
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be something that we see. You mentioned a couple of times you're thinking from the perspective of kind of like small business owners or online business owners, which is a position I don't think a lot of us take, especially when we come to Etsy as a gift giving or a item purchasing platform. And why would someone come to Etsy to download a digital product like that versus something like a a resume template website or Creative Market or Design Cuts? Like, why do you think? I don't know. Like, I don't have the answer. I don't know if it's niche specific or if it's specific age groups of business owners. Like, why do you think people are coming to Etsy for that kind of stuff?
I think one reason might be if someone is already familiar with shopping on Etsy and they've already purchased. One thing I find is like Etsy shoppers are very loyal to Etsy. So they
Hmm.
just love purchasing from Etsy. And it's kind of interesting because there's so many different shops. It's not like they're purchasing everything from the same shop, but Etsy shoppers, I think in general, just come back to Etsy. It's like their first place that they think of. Now, like I would purchase things from other places, but they may not be as familiar with Design Cuts or Creative Market or
Sure.
whatever else is out
Sure.
there. So if someone doesn't really feel like trying a new platform or trying to research what another place would be, they might just think, well, I could find that on Etsy, you know. So
Hmm.
maybe the ease of use, and also just the familiarity, I would say, because and there are people still that don't know about Etsy, but I think more and more Etsy is kind of becoming people's first like uh at least, and that's you bring up an interesting point. I'm thinking of it from a business owner, so I'm thinking, well, would that be the case if I was just looking for like printable home decor or weddings invitations or something, you know, that's not typically something I'm buying all the time personally. So that is an interesting point, but I wonder if people are maybe just not as familiar with the other platforms that are
Hmm.
out there, or maybe feel kind of intimidated to try something new. And I wonder also if there's sort of a specific like aesthetic or a vibe that like specifically creative market has or design cut like with what they offer.
Mhm.
And Etsy maybe has a wider variety of things.
Yeah,
I don't know.
perhaps.
That's
Yeah,
kind of my guess, but that is a great question. I wonder that too, because there's
yeah.
a lot of great platforms out there that you could purchase those on.
Yeah, I feel like, and this could just be Etsy absolutely crushing or dominating SEO or something, but I feel like the first place you might go is just the Google search bar. Like, I
Yeah.
need a letterhead template for whatever. And hey, maybe Etsy's coming up. Like, that's another thing. Maybe they're just beating these other creative
Yeah.
digital asset platforms or something like that. But I
Yeah.
do like the point about familiarity. I think that's really important as well. If you have a consistency and professionalism and branding on an Etsy shop, then why wouldn't someone purchase that if
Mhm.
it looks good and if it has reviews and if the price is right, basically.
Right.
um which kind of leads me into my next question, which is, I think sometimes it's a little bit more clear cut to price something as a physical product, or even in print on demand, which can still be very difficult, especially with figuring out production costs and all this stuff. It's still a little bit more clear cut. Like, I need to make X money so that I can make this amount of profit, but I don't want to price so high that no one will buy it. However, in a digital product standpoint, or a printable, or a digital asset, um, it can be it could be anything depending on the value of said product. How do you think about pricing your digital products or printables, or I mean, because there's kind of several tiers of digital product. What Walk us through your pricing strategy or pricing philosophy so that people have the best idea of how they can at least make some money, but still be competitive
Yeah.
with other sellers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I think pricing can be really confusing, especially when it comes to digital products. The first thing I would say to look at is your product something that you create once and then it's an instant download that you don't have to work on anymore? You've just created the thing and then someone can just go on and download it. So it sells on repeat, it sells on autopilot.
Yep.
Or is it something that you're having to do active work for every time someone orders it? Maybe it's something that's you're customizing a little bit on your end for the person that's bought it. So if it's a completely passive product versus like somewhat active or just a completely customized thing that you're offering, I
Yep.
think that plays into it. That's the first thing I would think of it because of course you want to be paid for your time. So if you're going to be spending hours and hours creating something custom for someone, that's very different. And you want to be, you want to make sure you're getting the right amount of profit for the time that you're putting into it and the effort that you're putting into it of like active work. Whereas a passive product, you're creating it once, it's selling on repeat. So you do the upfront work, but then after that, it's completely passive and you're not
Right.
having to do more work. So that could be a little bit lower price because you don't have any more time or effort that's really going into it. The other thing I look at is you want to be competitive. So you do need to know sort of the ballpark range of like what similar products from other sellers are selling for on your specific platform. So if I was selling on Etsy and I had a specific, like I was selling wedding invitations, let's say, I would do a search on Etsy and I would just start there and look at my competitors and look at similar invitations to what I'm thinking of selling, whether it's like maybe it's a bundle of like the invitation plus like a reply card and a couple different things that I'm selling as a wedding invitation
Mm,
bundle. I
yeah.
would want to find some similar listings that are along those same lines and kind of get a ballpark idea of like, okay, well, most of these listings that are selling really well are selling kind of between this price range and this price range. The great thing about digital products is you don't have to worry about shipping. So that kind of takes like a little bit of a confusing factor out of it because with physical products, you're having to kind of factor in shipping as well.
Right. Right.
Digital, you don't have to worry about that. So the main thing you're looking at is just the price point itself. So getting a ballpark range to be competitive. Now, of course, you know the true value of what you're offering, how much time and effort it took you to create that or design that, what you're paying on your end. If you're paying, monthly subscription fees for different design tools or whatever you're using, programs. So you want to make sure that you're factoring in your fees on your side of it to make sure that you have a healthy profit that's going to cover that. But I do think it's smart to know kind of what this type of product sells for, because there's such a huge range. There's, tiny, you could sell little digital stickers for 50 cents each, or you could sell a huge like digital branding package, like a totally custom business branding package for hundreds of dollars. So
Mm.
there's such a wide range of digital products that are out there. So it's really important to kind of get an idea with that. There's other tools you can use as well, specifically for Etsy. I think of some different Etsy research tools that have like a price calculator, profit
Oh, wow.
calculator that you can put in that will tell you, like, specifically with Etsy's fees, like the transaction fee, things like that. Like, if I were to price it at this much and then I get these fees taken out, this is what my profit margin would be. So I like to use tools like that as well, just to kind of even further know like what the fees are going to be, what I would profit, and kind of play around with that a little bit. And just remembering that it can be trial and error sometimes. So sometimes you'll
Yep.
put up a listing and you think you have a great price point and then it's just not selling. And it's okay to like just try some different things until you find what works. So not feeling like the first thing you decide on has to be the final price point, but just kind of throw it out there and see how it works. You want to make sure that you have some room to do discounts sometimes, in my
Mm.
opinion. There's different opinions about that, but I think it's great to offer discounts or flash sales, things, specific coupon codes for people so that you can kind of use that in your marketing and drive some traffic. So I love to have a price point that can allow for that, because if you price it too low, then
Mm.
you're not going to have any room to take any off or a discount. So I just to kind of think through all of that. I don't have like a specific ABC, like step by step process that I go through, but I just consider all of that and I try to research as much as possible to make sure I'm in a competitive price point, but also a healthy profit margin.
Right. Yeah. And last question I have kind of uh, related to this is about scaling price, I think, because I think you can still do that with digital products. I think, again, on the physical product or the print on demand product side, once your shop or store continues to make consistent sales and you get consistent reviews, and again, your branding is quite strong across your shop, it's not so uncommon to kind of increase, increments of price for these products because people are willing to pay for them because of the track record that you have. Now, with digital products, is that something that you can replicate? Or is there a threshold that we don't necessarily cross? I mean, I guess it's also dependent on market research, like you said, looking at the ratio of where is the price from lowest to highest. But I just wonder if that's something that can be replicated from something on the physical side. Like, I've the reason I ask this is because I've heard for some other from podcasts and some other YouTubers kind of teaching Etsy that you need to have these like kind of throwaway products that they say, where you're going to price it so low that someone will instantly buy because it's worth nothing and it's not for you to get any money because it's only for reviews. It just conflicts, I think, with it depends on what the product is, but you're not getting into this without any sort of upfront time dedicated to creating it. So
Right.
I think it's a bit silly to suggest that you should like throw away a product. If you were, I mean, you could just have a complete freebie on your own website or something like
Right.
that. So I guess it's a roundabout way to kind of ask you what the scaling process looks like for you in terms of digital products.
Yeah, I think that you can have the same sort of process in terms of with physical products and digital products, in terms of being able to raise your prices at a certain point, like for everything that you said, because it's more in demand, you've got
Mm.
some credibility, your shop is more established. I think the more you build all of those things, you've got your social proof with your reviews. People are willing to pay more because they trust you more and they sort of subconsciously just assume this must be a great product. It's sold
Mm.
so many times, it has so many reviews, the shop looks really professional. So I think with both physical and digital, I think that's the same. You can raise your prices when you get to that point. And that's what I teach my students, whether physical or digital. I think it's the same, to kind of go in like phase one when you're just beginning and you want to be super competitive to really just try to break through and get some of your first few sales. But then once you start growing and scaling and you have consistent sales coming in, you want to raise your prices to a little bit of a healthier profit margin. Um, I think it's the same across the board. I don't agree with the throwaway product. I think
Mm,
that if you're looking at growing your brand and growing your business long term, which is what I think most of us want to do, it's more of a long-term vision of saying, it could help me maybe in the beginning to just like quick get some sales, but then how is that helping my shop have credibility and like appear as an established, trustworthy brand to people if I'm just throwing some things out there for like nothing and I'm devaluing my own work and my
right.
own effort and time by doing that, it actually discredits you, in my opinion. I think that we talk so much about building that know, like, and trust factor with your potential clients or customers. And it's important to have that trust with people. But how are they going to trust you if you have one product that's just this like throwaway nothing product and then you're claiming your other products are this great value? It just
Mm,
doesn't, it's not
yeah,
consistent to me. And it kind of like, it doesn't speak much about your word. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
you should be taking pride in like and being able to say like I created all of these things, they're all valuable. I put my time and effort into this. Um Now I do think there's something to be said for being competitive. Of course, you don't ever want to be like the highest price that's like above everyone else. That's going to hurt you too. So I feel like there is a balance there, but you never want to price so low as well that it discredits, because I
Mm,
think there's a lot that goes on subconsciously in a buyer's mind when they're comparing different things that they're considering buying. Maybe there's similar listings from different shops and they're comparing. There's a lot subconsciously that goes into that process and that decision. And I think part of it that we don't maybe think about enough as sellers is, are they trusting us as like a trusted, credible brand that they feel confident when they purchase this, it's going to be what I say it's going to be. I'm delivering on what I promised. It's going to over deliver in value.
yeah,
So I think it's just, there's so many things that go into that. So for me, like, I understand kind of where people are coming from with that approach, but I would not personally go that route. I would try to offer things that are of value and charge what it's worth, a competitive price point, but also what it's worth and what my time is worth. And then realizing the more I grow, the more I can scale that and sort of that'll grow with me as I get more reviews, more sales, more credibility, things like that.
right. Yeah, 100%. Well, Kate, this has been amazing. This has been very productive and useful for our users. I want to ask you before we land the plane and sign off if you have any other kind of final thoughts or last minute encouragement or just kind of inspiring words to those that may feel stuck or perhaps beginning or have even been in the game for a long time and just not really seeing any outcome. I've started to see some comments like that relatively frequently on Discord. I've been at it for X amount of months and I'm still, not really there. And there's a number of things that can go into that, of course. I mean, there's a lot to diagnose there. But just yeah, what would you say as your encouragement as we move out of this year into the next one? And I mean, many other things that can happen on Etsy.
Yeah. I would just say, number one, the fact that you're even here watching this and researching, like, already puts you ahead, like, so
Mm,
far ahead than most people that are coming on and trying to sell things online and just kind of like throwing things up and hoping for the best and not putting any thought into strategy or into like how to
mm,
actually build this and use the right tactics and things. So the fact that you're watching this right now is, I mean,
yeah,
already an amazing thing and already puts you ahead. But also remembering that anyone that you see that has had any success has had failures probably too. Like
right.
the majority of people don't just start and then have like immediate overnight success. I know when I first tried Etsy, even before my first successful shop, I had a shop that flopped and I had to
Mm,
like reinvent everything and rethink everything. And so you just never know. And I think if you get discouraged after the first, or second failure, or what you consider a failure, you would never know, maybe the next time you would have made a change or a pivot of some sort and tried something new, that it would actually take off and be successful. So I do think it takes a lot of enduring through some failures, or through some, like, I don't even know if they should be considered failures, because they help you to grow. They help you to realize, okay, well, that didn't work. What can I try? What can I change that could make it work the next time? So we can learn something through all of those. And of course, it takes longer for some people than others. And I think, like you said, there's a lot that goes into that, but just not giving up and continuing, because there's always things we can do to grow and improve, optimize our shops better,
Hmm.
learn about how to better design graphically, things like that. And it's just, I think there's so much to be learned and so much progress, but it can't all just happen overnight. It's a process and a journey of, I think of it as like 1% every day. I feel like we probably all heard that, of like, grow 1% better,
Yeah.
make 1% of progress every single day, like take one step in the right direction, and it will grow over time and get there. So I know if I had quit the first, or even like the 10th time that I had like done something wrong, or I tried something and it didn't work, I would have given up. But I'm so thankful that, like, I just kept trying different things, and
Mhm.
eventually something started working. So I think most people will get there if they continue to research, continue to be smart about their strategy, and stay flexible and try new things.
Perfect. I cannot think of any other uh, better words to leave people with than that. So that is absolutely fantastic. Everyone watching, please go check out Kate's channel. It's linked down below on YouTube. You're gonna get a ton of value, a ton of not only encouragement but very practical use cases for Etsy. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to Kittl. If you've watched this long in the video, I'm not entirely sure why you haven't hit the subscribe button. So you need to do that. It'll take you 1 second. It's not red anymore. It's either white or black for you. Just click it. It's fine. And another thing I want you to do is, throughout this conversation that Kate and I had, if you are unsure of something, or something was you brought up another question, or you're like, I don't understand, like, what do you mean this? Please comment it below, because that could be another video Kate makes. That could be another video I make. Or perhaps we do a part 2 and we diagnose and get into some of these questions. So please comment down below, because we look at that and we want to help, and we don't want to just kind of leave vague information out there. So we will help you. So please do that. Check out Kate's channel, comment below, and we will see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.